Welcome to FacingMelsMusic.com podcast, featuring some of the most heartwarming stories from musicians all around the world on FacingMelsMusic.com.
Okay, welcome to Facing Mel's Music. This is Mel Golding, and I have a wonderful guest all the way from New York, Asher. How do you pronounce your surname?
It's just Asher Laub.
Asher Laub, right? Okay. And Asher is an amazing violinist. Asher, you've been doing this from birth, haven't you, really?
Yeah, straight out of the womb.
Exactly. You were right on that violin. So I read that you got into it like at the age of 2.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Who put that on you?
A violin fell from the sky, and I just started playing it.
And the angels, the angels.
Well, the story that I always tell is I was
Yeah.
on a little margarine box violin because it's you're very small fingers.
Right.
Another way to sort of like fit your hand around something. But after I reached about 3.5, I was able to play a tiny Suzuki Chinese violin.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's funny because my parents just held on to that as like a little memento, even decades later, or like remind me where I came from.
Right. Okay. Are your parents musical then?
Yeah, they're definitely musical. My mother plays ukulele, father plays violin,
Hmm.
but not to the level that they raised us to play and
Okay.
just educated us.
Right. Okay. So they didn't go really in the professional route so much, but more of a hobby.
No, yeah, more
Right.
of a pretty good hobbyist, and
Yeah.
there's a number of professional musicians in the family. There's my aunt Sheila, who's in the Boston Symphony. So there's been a lot of encouragement from that end.
Wow, actually, that's amazing. And I've heard you. I was listening actually today a little bit as well, and you've transformed some songs. I mean, I'm going to get onto some bits because you did some Michael Jackson stuff, is my favorite all-time artist, and I know you did a mini medley there, and it was like, wow, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like when you're playing, you're doing the violin. I mean, you do so many things as well. You also dance at the same time.
Yeah, I do my best to.
How do you do that?
Styles work with the music that I play. Others are a little more awkward, so I have to really be very, very careful about how I do that. It's not like I can't really pull off ballet too well, but
Okay.
like breakdancing type of movements work well with like upbeat, rhythmic type stuff. Michael Jackson works great.
Oh, it always does, you know.
Oh.
And what I loved it was great. And you've got a team of dancers around you as well, haven't you? Are these people that you regularly perform with?
Yeah, we do
Okay.
that stuff for years.
Yeah.
And done some traveling too.
Yeah.
And so that's like one of the hats that I wear. It's one of the types of performances that I
Yeah.
present and enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it feels like you were more concentrated in the violin and concentrating on that and perfecting that, I suppose. And yeah.
Yeah. I've been asked to like do other instruments and to try other types of acts, but violin is where I'm focused at. I think that's my trademark. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. What other instruments or have you looked at, or have you thought about looking at?
Piano, drums, guitar,
Okay.
but I don't think anything quite measures up to the value of the violin, and it's not as easy to sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, some people absolutely are passionate about the violin. I'm saying listeners, but
Yeah.
it's like it's easier to get into the drums than to the guitar. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a bit of a mission of mine to show people like what the violin can provide.
That's great. So the mission is to actually demonstrate the emotion and how much you can actually get through the music and the performances, which is true. It really is true.
And especially its
Yeah.
versatility, which I think people understand enough or appreciate
Yeah.
it. So
It's very true, isn't it? Because when you think of, I mean, okay, there are soloists, violinists, amazing, I'm just saying technically they're incredible, but you also think of them as string sections in the back blending in with other strings. So it's not really bringing them to the forefront of the stage, rather more at the back. It feels like you want to break through that, and not only do you want to break through that, but you want to cross the genres with it as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
Your homework. You definitely checked out what I
Yeah.
my music, my videos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm touched.
Yes, of course, always, always, because you've been described as being an expert in transgenre improvisation. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about that, actually?
Yeah, it's a bit like crossover violin music. So it's
Yeah.
crossing the genres. It's blending them. The new single Atlantis is a blend of hip hop, classical, and electronic music.
Wow.
Isn't too typical.
Right.
And never find the proper categories on Spotify or these other platforms. They want me to categorize their music. I can't. It's really tough. It's like, it's not classical. It's not neoclassical. It's not EDM. It's not hip hop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is it, isn't it? And as you go along, and as we evolve as musicians, you're adding to almost a new movement. So you can create a new sort of genre, if you like. Maybe. I mean, there's all sorts of genres now. I've seen. I think, what's that? And I think, I've never heard of that before in my life. And it's incredible. But yeah, it seems like you're kind of there, and you don't want to be pinpointed, really, do you?
Not so much. I kind of like doing my own thing.
Yeah.
We as artists, like, we sort of see ourselves as challenged by the other artists around us. I hear that from even on the interviews that I've had with other artists.
Yeah.
And I just started to realize that.
Yeah.
Again, hearing it from other people, I'm like, oh, okay. I guess there is an element of like feeling inferior because there's always people who are better than you. It's like if you have a sub niche where you're your own thing, you're not comparing yourself to other people. You're another. So you're presenting different melodies and different styles.
Yeah, you're in your own genre there, and it's interesting you mentioned that because I've just written a blog about that, and I've called it competition in the arts or something like this, and how actually it shouldn't be competitive, really, artists and musicians, because we're all unique in what we've got to offer. But I think what it is, the difference is the industry makes it competitive.
You hit the nail.
Yeah.
The major labels, I don't need to bash them.
Well, we could really get into juicy conversation there, Asha, with the labels and stuff. I mean, what's your experience of the industry? Go on, be honest. Tell me.
I mean, the industry, it's funny. I started like really young and naive, and I'm say like freshman in college. As soon as I got to New York, hit the scene.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say for the first like 10 years where I wasn't in the marketing aspect of being a musician, I was just sort of like a sideman, or I was just being like pitched and booked by other agents, that kind of stuff. I had no clue who was like really altruistic about, okay, whether they wanted to help me or not, or if they just like kind of wanted to use me. And now that I'm in the marketing, because I'm an independent artist, I have to understand the marketing aspect of things in order to survive.
Yeah.
And I realize how many people are just kind of trying to piggyback off of my work, and I'm looking for people who are looking to partner with me as opposed to use me, or and there's just like there's a lot of organizations out there, including the major labels and independent labels, that you really got to know what you're doing. You got to know who.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, you do, and it's really difficult, isn't it? And it's difficult for the young artists as well. Like, the younger you are, the more vulnerable you are actually in the business. That's what I always think anyway, so I always care about that. I mean, what about the effects on mental health and self-esteem and confidence? I mean, have you ever experienced sort of a hit on any of those, and anything negative? I mean, I think it's safe to say that most people do, really.
Yeah, I mean, I've done probably around in the neighborhood of like 2,000 gigs since 2001. That's my estimate from like all my data points.
Yeah.
And I've definitely had like awkward type of performances and encounters and experiences with clients, viewers, fans, whatever you want to call it, in different situations. And there have been where I've, like, for instance, been on stage and I don't know, something would sort of hit me, and I would sort of lose confidence and wonder why. because I guess I sort of feed off of the crowd. If I don't necessarily
Yes.
see the acid crowd, I feel like is there something
Yeah.
wrong with what I'm doing? And that's in the context of already being challenged as a
Yeah.
violinist. Like I feel like mostly, and you're a singer,
Yeah.
so maybe you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Singers, from my vantage point, the vantage
Yeah.
point of an instrumentalist, I feel like that there's more of an interest in hearing a singer as like a
Yes.
lead, as opposed
Yes.
to like a saxophonist getting up there like a Kenny G. He's sort of an exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
So as a violinist, I almost feel compelled to do a dancing act because I feel like, okay, if they don't like the violin, they'll like the dancing, you know? It makes it a little easier. People like,
Yeah. Give them their money's worth. Give them the money's worth sort of thing. Isn't that interesting? And yeah, it's just, I mean, your stuff is beautiful. And, and I've heard I mean, you write some of your stuff as well. Is that right? You've written some stuff.
yeah, Atlantis is completely original. Neon Dreams, my first hit,
That's it. Yep.
completely
Hmm.
original. I'm most proud of
Beautiful.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a bunch of others. I released a blend of like a mix of covers and original.
Yes. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. It's nice to do that. I mean, where do you get your inspiration from when it comes to doing your own stuff? How does that come about? How do you get inspired?
Well, I look to the bigger artists in many cases. I look to also the vocalists. So Michael Jackson is obviously a major influence for me.
Right.
The
Yeah.
medley with
Yeah.
dance. But instrumentalists that inspired me to like kind of move in this realm are Lindsey Sterling, David Garrett, Vanessa
Hmm.
May,
Yeah.
like artists.
Yeah.
Itzhak Perlman. I grew up listening to him Gil Shaham.
Okay.
Not just violinists, but also just instrumentalists. Chick
Right.
Corea, fusion jazz.
Yeah.
Artists and
Amazing.
I'm trying to think. There's a couple others that I just lost. Well, you can get the idea. But
Of course. Yeah. What I admire really about
Bella Fleck.
sorry, which one?
Bella Fleck and the Flecktones.
Okay. Yeah.
Bluegrass, jazz.
Wonderful. Oh, I love that stuff. It's great. Yeah. What I'd really admire actually is like you make the comparison to a singer, and it's so true because also the one fundamental difference also is that there's no words, there's no lyrics.
Yeah, and I try to like pitch that to my listeners that you could listen to anybody, and there's a value to like coming from a different part of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you don't speak the language, but you appreciate the instrumental melody.
Yes.
And you can sort of project your own thought and meaning and onto the song without being told.
And in the way you're performing it, because I noticed, I listened to some of the way you bent the notes. You bent the notes, and you, for example, there was one, was it Justin Timberlake? One of those songs, "Can't Stop the Feeling." I love that song so much. And just in the kind of, I would call them like the vocal improv bits. You took some of that as well, and you put your own bits in there. And I guess that's your way of expressing. Your voice is the instrument, obviously. That's your singing voice is the instrument.
Yes.
That's the way I see it anyway. But the only difference is your job is harder because there's no words to go with it. So what are you communicating? And this is probably why you feel you need to dance as well. Maybe, I don't know.
I feel like, well, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I don't do it all the time. It's just in the concert type setting. People have asked me like in smaller events, can you do dancing? I'm just like, no. Behind me, I need to be choreographed. I need to be like, I can't improvise the dancing. It has to be set.
Yeah.
But like when I'm taking the position, I'm replacing a vocalist. Like in the case of "Can't Stop Feeling" pop music.
Yeah.
I'm doing more flares, like more improv, more notes, essentially.
Yes. Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. You also do. It says you're also a DJ violinist. So, how does that work then? You're playing music and you're.
I've noticed different artists, like instrumental artists, move into the DJ realm because I guess not a necessity, but also to be able to sort of. I'm trying to think of some names off the top of my head. They're kind of escaping me, but.
Okay, don't worry.
But but there are a number of there's like a growing number of DJ violinists that they mix the music, and in the mixing they're able to create a loop and then sort of improvise over it, and it's sort of adding an additional dimension to what they would do. It's also it's a this blend between this like collaboration type blend between dedicated DJs and dedicated violinists.
Yeah.
It's growing.
Right.
Growing.
Yeah.
And I've done so many events with DJs, and I found that, you know, some are better than others, but for the most part, many of them don't fully understand how to work with a violinist and vice versa. So it's sort of like music doesn't work too well. So that's sort of what compelled me to learn and to build up my own DJ skills so that I can play the music that I know works with my.
And what are you finding that's working? That's an interesting question.
A lot of electronic dance music, which is why I made Neon Dreams. I find that it fits really well.
Okay. Yeah.
Classical, right. But in the dance realm, a lot of top 40s, stuff with like a backbeat rhythm, really faster beat. Michael Jackson was the most intuitive, which was that initially, but that type of music really works very well with an electric violin type of vibe. But there's also branched out into electric guitar type tones, just you know, when you're doing more classic rock type music, it doesn't itself more to the electric guitar, and I like to show that kind of versatility also.
Do you go into rock then a bit? Rock music? Oh, do you? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, cool. Is this that like covers? You go into cover rock music?
Yeah.
What sort of stuff would you cover then and use the violin? Which bands?
Well, so, you know, Summer of '69 popped up.
Hey,
just played the other day from some people on Facebook, Instagram. I play this stuff live also at different events. I mean, the Beatles tends to work a bit better with the violin tones. But yeah, like Bon Jovi type guys works really well with electric. I mean, guys that are using electric, the Who, you know, they're using electric guitars. So here I'm sort of inserting myself where I don't belong.
It's interesting though, because what you're talking about is, I mean, you're mentioning these artists like from the 80s, probably further back around that genre. That's where I grew up in the 80s. I think I'm still stuck there, but it's. And I don't want to leave it, to be honest with you. But isn't it amazing that you're talking about your audiences and still loving that over there in the States? I take it this are you kind of in because you're in New York. I take it you travel around quite a bit. Do you? You travel quite a bit, don't you? Yeah.
I travel mostly across the States.
Yeah.
But a good portion of my fan base is in Europe, which is interesting, and like you know, different parts like the Middle East, like Israel.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks in Europe, the U.S., Canada, that listen to my music and stream it.
Yeah, that's great. And that's obviously the cover stuff, which is your version, your rendition of those covers and your own music. Yeah, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, also I do a bunch of Bollywood covers, so I have a bunch of
I saw
Asian clients, fans, a lot of people like streaming my music also from you know, those regions, also expats from India.
Right.
Those are some of my biggest clients actually in the US.
Really?
India, like the people throwing like the big productions, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I had no idea until I started doing the events. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's really funny, isn't it? Because as an artist, you get an idea, you think, that's going to be a smash hit, that one. That's going to really do well. And then you do a few others, a few fillers, especially if you're putting an album together. And it's the ones that you really least expected to do well are the ones that take off. And it's absolutely bizarre. So you never really know what your audience want, really. It's difficult, though, don't you think, to kind of like pinpoint where you need to go next with music and material. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's definitely for me, I think, you know, to know what do they want.
It is difficult. I look at the data. I look at I look at all the comments. I look at
Mm,
the DMs. It's a lot of different data points, and
mhm.
it's a bit unpredictable, to be
Yeah.
honest. Um,
Mm,
like got way more saves on my Ratan Lambian Bollywood cover released from last month, like 3 weeks ago.
yeah.
Uh, Way more saves than any other than like Neon Dreams this past month, and Neon Dreams got almost I don't know, like 400,000 streams. So
Wow. Yeah.
uh, and that's been featured on many radio stations and so forth. So
Yeah.
I think there's like a bunch of South Asian people that are checking
Yeah.
out the music. But
Yeah.
that it's every like Bollywood release
Yeah.
does well. And like some Italian songs do well, and some original songs that I think
Mm,
are the best compositions I've ever made.
mm.
They've so yeah.
Like I say, you never know, really. You never know. I saw one of your videos. I think it was one of the Bollywoods. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. It's you times three of you, actually. Um, and you're tracking yourself up basically with all these different melodies, and they're weaving in and out of each other. It's very lovely. I think it's a humble setting of a living room, a lounge, or something. And I
Yeah.
saw that. That's is that what you're referring to? The stuff as being quite,
That did pretty
yeah,
decent. Got a bunch of
yeah.
requests when I did that. I did some other, but I honestly I can't even keep track of all my releases because I
Yeah.
feature every month or something.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it I don't know, like say
Mm.
so. I did okay. I wasn't. It's hard to predict what's going to do well. I just do the best that I can on each song. Like some songs that I don't even like put emphasis into
Mm.
or money or anything into like or even a whole lot of thought into the video production. They do
Mhm.
really well, and it's
Yeah.
actually a little frustrating.
Yeah. It's
Do well. It's total garbage. Yeah.
well, I mean, it is bizarre, but I mean, it's about writing for you. There's a difference, isn't there? Writing for you and writing for your audience. There is a big difference in that. What you want to do for yourself, and which is, I guess, they're both important, really, because you have to satisfy that part of yourself, don't you? Don't you agree? As an artist, you've got to get that stuff out in music because it's inside emotions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's most important that I impress the fans, really. But I have this music that I just want. I feel like, oh, it's so good, you got to hear it. And I don't necessarily know if it's going to work, but I just have to do
Mm.
it for myself in the hopes that it will
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that as my fan base expands,
Yeah.
there'll be enough people that will listen to the stuff that I enjoy more. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly producing the music that I 100% want
Yeah.
to produce.
Yeah. There was another little video clip that's just popped into my head that I remember. And it was ever so funny. It was great because I love Harry Potter. So you did the theme tune of that. I think it was the theme tune. And there was a dog being elevated on a brush. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah,
Whose dog is that, by the way? And were they safe? That's my question.
absolutely. It was
Good.
fine.
Just checking health and safety, it's very, very important.
You're right. But when you're dealing with flying dogs, we're talking about the supernatural here. So
It is true.
we
But
should
they
have
look
that.
Yeah, they look pretty chilled out. This dog was gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, he
Oh,
definitely, maybe he was, I don't know, on something. I have no idea.
I think your music was just bringing him up. That's what was happening. It's the
That's what
music. It was the magic music. That's what it was, basically. But that was
I love Harry
amazing.
Potter.
It sounds like you like to have fun with that. It really does. You got to, right?
You got to
You got
laugh and
to. Yeah.
cry.
Yeah. Well, I know. I well know. Trust me. Trust me about that. You've played Madison Square Garden, haven't you? Oh,
Yeah, believe it or not.
tell me about that. That is incredible. That's like a dream for most musicians, that one.
Yeah, I don't know if that dream's ever going to come back, but it comes
Mm,
back in other ways. Like
yeah,
when I get calls for festivals about the same size.
yeah,
Uh, like I don't have a clue how I did it.
yeah,
I think I was just like hard for like years and just doing performances with like a ton of different acts and I think around that time I was I did my first PBS release,
Mm-hmm.
and I one of two.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. It wasn't my show. It was me being featured on a show, like a new age type of production.
Yeah.
And years later with Jessica Lynn, who's just like
Okay.
a sweetheart and incredible talent. Definitely check out her music. She's like very
Okay.
successful country artist. But it was around that time that I was just doing some big productions. And it seems like when you're trending, you're really trending, and then you drop like a I
Yeah.
don't know something you like.
We can fit in. I can edit that, and we'll fit in a word or a description of what it dropped like. A
Yeah.
beep. Yeah, I know how it works.
And reemerged. I did like Lincoln Center the next year. Like it's these things come and go. I don't let it get to my head. A lot. I
No.
notice a lot of artists around me. It really that their ego is just like they're
Oh,
tripping
yeah.
on their ego, and it's like
Yeah.
you're not that big of a deal, man. Like
No.
you do some big venues and like you got a
Yeah.
few million streams, but there's a lot of big people out there, and
Mm.
you're not the biggest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I realize that my successes are not going to necessarily continue in perpetuity
No.
or every day or every week.
No.
So
No. There's that saying, everybody has their 15 minutes of fame. I don't know, but that's what they say. So, you can be successful for a long time, but at the end of the day, things do diminish. And egos, there's that word. It is something that I like to research and I like to study and I like to talk about. And it's something that I actually offer as part of a service to actually try and keep that in check, because it's very important. Because if that gets inflated too much, that means your belief system is just way out of hand. It's out of alignment with actually who you truly are, which is why identity crises happen,
oh,
in the future, and it leads to breakdowns, is what I believe. As a therapist, I believe that. So it's about keeping your feet on the ground, and also, successful people. There's talent and there's success. They don't necessarily go together. So there's a lot of talent out there that's never been successful, and there's a lot of crap out there that has been successful. And let it be said. I know, I've been in the business a long time, mate, a long, long time, and I've seen a lot. I would like, isn't it just the root of all evil?
it's a tough industry, and
It's horrible.
it's what goes on in the industry.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, there's a lot of money. I mean, things have changed now so much. The music industry's changed so much. You're an independent artist. You can be an independent artist now. Years ago, we didn't have Spotify. When I was starting out, there wasn't that. Because you used to rely on record companies, and that's the thing. Now we don't quite have that. But the trouble is the competition has got broader. It's got wider because there's so many people doing it. Because we all have access to it. Yeah, so that's what we're all fighting for. It's like, I want the spotlight, I want the limelight, I want to be the one noticed and that. But egos is very important to keep that in check and to make sure you're doing things for the right reason. You're doing it for art, you're doing it for love, because actually that is what reaches the people in the end. Not that is what actually sustains you as well.
Oh yeah, it's about consistency for me. I'm not looking to be
Yeah.
an overnight success. There's a lot of overnight success that drop, and then that just leads to not really interested in that.
No.
You look for stability, which I think is achievable nowadays.
Yeah.
It's hard as hell, but it's achievable.
Yes.
The tools we have, it just has to be done in a smart manner.
What you have to do, actually, I mean, I really want to get into coaching musicians. I am a counsellor, so I do private counselling therapy, but I actually do want to get more into coaching, because I actually feel I know how to continue and get into deeper content, and how to remain authentic to yourself. You sort of have to block out that competition. And you have to also almost imagine, you have to think of it, I am the only one doing this, because I am unique. No one's got my story, and no one's ever going to sound like me. There might be other violinists out there, there might be other singers out there, but no one has got my sound, no one has got my story, and no one has the combination of elements that I have. And with that, you have that inner confidence, actually, and that, I think, is what reaches people in the end. They see the truth. People are not stupid. The audiences are not stupid. They see the truth. They see you. You know, like the avatar, I see you, like that. I
Yeah.
see you. That's how I see it.
Well,
Yeah.
as to just speaking to the whole like limited fan base type situation that the industry is saturated. I feel like there actually are plenty of people interested in supporting musicians out there, but
Yeah.
I feel like the major labels they
Yeah.
create a greater challenge over time because of their I guess concentration of wealth and funds,
Yes.
and they're talking like the three labels that have come together. Like they own 40% of Spotify, so Spotify is unable to change their algorithm to support
Mm.
regular musicians
Mm.
because their catalogs are going to be pulled. The
Yeah.
major label catalogs, like the Drakes, so forth, um, as a threat if they do adjust the algorithm to support smaller artists, mid-sized artists, even
Yeah.
large artists who aren't like raking in billions of streams.
Yeah.
I think that there's plenty to go around. There's plenty of support to support to go around. You know, for just average musicians, average performers. But a lot of that saturation, I think, is happening at the top. In my opinion.
There's still the elements of control. There's still the elements of control.
The longer these organizations and social media platforms remain like established,
Yeah.
I suspect that they get a more of a tight hold or a grip on those companies.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it would be interesting for me to actually look more into that, actually, how they work, because organisation structures, the infrastructure has actually changed so much now. So, as you say, like, how many did you say? 3 record companies own Spotify, is it?
Sony,
The big ones, of course, the big ones. Yeah. So it'd be very interesting. Asher, what I do want to talk about is I've got something here. You were unwell, is that right? You were unwell?
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Understatement. So I'm being okay. So there's a story here, and it's got of losing your music career to adrenal insufficiency and the subsequent recovery. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that, when it's, how that came about and what it is about actually, and what you suffer or suffered with, and the process and everything?
It's an extremely complicated medical situation that I did not have. I'm going to say proper guidance from industry folks. I'm talking about not music industry folks, like medical. And I had to do a lot of this stuff. I had to figure out a lot of this stuff on my own.
Wow.
And I mean, I've shared this publicly. This information is out there, but in a nutshell, I was in a wheelchair for quite a few months, almost lost my family and everything. Ended up on a permanent dosage of Cortef to support my adrenal glands. Was unable to eat, to eat properly. I was like reacting to all sorts of things. Very, very scary. Very, very scary. And with a whole lot of research, I got out of that mess, and independent research, actually. Some guy did a bunch of blood tests and so forth. And when I got out of there, I hit the ground running, let's just say. That's where Neon Dreams came in. And I literally took my ass off stage out of just like sheer delight, and not really thinking what other people thought at that point.
Right.
That career from like science background to music.
So what actually just to tell us a little bit more about it, what actually are the symptoms? What actually is happening in your body? I mean, we've got it here, adrenal insufficiency. What does that mean exactly in layman's terms? What was happening to you?
Body wasn't producing enough cortisol, essentially. It was a cortisol deficiency. When you don't have enough, when your adrenal glands aren't producing enough hormone, essentially, you're unable to, like, your blood pressure tanks.
Okay.
To maintain just basic function. So I was just sort of like lying there in bed like a sack of potatoes.
Lifeless.
Okay. I couldn't sleep at night.
Yeah.
I I didn't have enough energy to like lift my arms. It was just scary as hell. And like my brain was working quite effectively because I was just thinking just the thought, my head was spinning. Like, what
Yeah.
do I do? Physically can't get up to go to the kitchen.
Right.
What do I do? Who do I call? How do I like? What do I read? And a lot of times I would just sit there like with my phone, just sort of just reading articles over and over again, just sort of like get to the bottom of like how do I fix this?
My goodness.
So, and
Wow.
like family was freaking out. They
Yeah.
were just freaking out, and I was getting labeled as like by other people who hadn't tested me as like, okay, he's just anxious, or he's just has depression, and you know what?
Right.
To that I say, you're right. I was anxious and depressed, but
Mm.
that was the driving force. When you don't
No.
have enough hormone being produced in your body by the adrenal glands,
Yeah.
that is a side effect of the root of the problem.
Of course. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
And learned a hell of a lot from that
Ah,
experience.
my word. My word.
So be careful of. I'm still at risk, you know.
You got to be careful. You got to be careful. So when did this? I mean, how long did you have suffer for? When did it
7 years,
start? Sorry,
I
when?
think so about. I've been I've been good. And I have to tell you, the first year of doing gigs after I was strong enough to actually like get up and
Yeah.
get out of the wheelchair, they were scary as hell. Like I had these just symptoms where even like before I went out to do an event, like sitting outside the event hall, and I started to get lightheaded and dizzy, and is scary because I didn't know if my body would like hold up. And you could say, oh, that's anxiety, but like I think it was a combination of things.
Mm.
And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to say a component of, and what actually solved the problem was nutritional rebalancing.
Oh,
Um,
right.
I
Okay.
did not get any guidance whatsoever from a whole host of like physicians and medical practitioners, and I ended up going to nursing school and getting a degree. Actually,
Wow. Did you do that?
yeah. So now
Well done, you. That is so amazing. Good for you.
thank you. I did it because I I don't have a choice but to do it because I had to really fully understand.
Mm.
I was motivated to fully understand my condition and just a whole lot of other things. So
Mm.
did it, but
It's amazing. Oh, bless you, bless you. But it's amazing, isn't it, what drives you to study? There's usually a personal reason why. It's like me, I wanted to study psychology because of my family. you know. Oh dear me. It's and amongst other people as well. But it's incredible. You actually really. So how many years did that suffering? Sorry, because you were actually cutting out. When did you say you started to suffer? Because you cut out. So if you can say that again.
I actually started to suffer at a pretty young age. I didn't realize what was wrong with me. Nobody told me what was wrong with me, but I started having difficulty holding the instrument.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
Late middle school and progressed to high school, it was like getting absurd. Like I was playing concertos and I just couldn't. I didn't have the stamina. It
Oh
was just
wow.
this hyperextension of the back, and I just didn't have enough like cortisol in my body to like to rebalance my muscles and yeah. And I went to before I actually hit that stage 7 years ago, just um, collapsing.
Yeah.
I had like a year and a half of physical therapy about something like that when I was in NYU getting my
Okay.
degree, and that was helpful for a while, and then it
Yeah.
stopped being helpful. Like it didn't get me to where it didn't, it, it helped me to strengthen my back, but it didn't keep my blood pressure up.
Right. Okay. So you're dealing with several things there, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's not like I wasn't eating regularly. I've been a huge eater my entire life, so that's why
Right.
it was confusing to me.
I'm just looking it up here. Adrenal insufficiency, and it's got next to it an Addison's disease as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Addison's. I was like reading about JFK and how he had Addison's and how he was on
Mm.
patient. He was pretty much was they say, at least I've read in some articles, that he was pretty much going to die within a few years if he wasn't assassinated. I don't know if that's actually the case.
Really? That's interesting information.
His condition. I was reading about it while I was in the throes of that disease, and I'm like, I was scared out of my mind, and I was like calling
Mm.
my doctor, like, am I gonna die? Like what? Like and they're just
Mm.
saying, I don't know. Like really, like very unhelpful and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
dramatic.
Because the symptoms that are here, it says they're fatigue, which is what you're talking about, muscle weakness, loss of appetite, weight loss, and abdominal pain as well. So, and it says it's caused by an autoimmune disease or suddenly stopping steroid medicines, which yours is the autoimmune disease, isn't it?
I was never on steroid medications until
No. Yeah.
age, but since you
Right.
mentioned autoimmune,
Yeah.
about I'm going to say 5 years prior, maybe 2007, 2008,
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with an inflammatory condition.
Okay.
So that was clearly a precursor to what happened years later.
Yeah.
So that was sort of like the next step in the chain.
Yeah.
So far, I've been pretty good. You know,
Yeah. No, you're
I
great. That's great.
will continue, but
Yes. I mean, what do you what were the changes then? I mean, you got into recovery. So was that medication? Are you on is it regular medication or
I was off of Cortef. I've been off of Cortef for probably 6, 7 years,
yeah.
and the dosage I was on, most people are on permanently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, if it works, it works. Who cares?
well, it wasn't the Cortef that got me better. It probably
Yeah.
prevented me from getting worse.
Yeah.
But what got me better was a whole host of other things that I did.
Good.
I continue to do, and I actually probably read a book about it.
It's incredible. So what did you say so what's your degree? You said you did a degree. Did you do a degree?
I have 3 degrees in sciences. I have a bachelor's in bio. I have a science education. I taught biology and sciences for 4 years in the DOE, and I got a BSN also. And throughout that whole that series, I was pretty much a full-time musician,
Yeah.
supporting myself through college.
Oh, yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's a bit like what I was doing while I was studying for counseling and psychotherapy, and I was still going out being a crazy rock artist at that time. I mean, I was just like with the leather pants, the leather outfit, and everything. So it's just nuts. Didn't you find that kind of interesting? Because you're obviously still doing the music. You obviously throughout while simultaneously studying. Did you find that was weird having two kind of heads there or two personalities?
It's always nice to speak with people like you, because it makes me feel like, okay, I'm in good company. Like there are other people out there like me, and there's a reason for the madness. And I didn't know anybody around me at the time who was doing it, but it was paying the bills, so that was my argument. And nobody thought it was a bad idea. And the skill was already there from childhood. childhood.
Yeah.
And I never saw it as a stable career until like I started earning decent money. I did at various points.
Mm.
So yeah, it made sense.
Mm.
Since I've got to say, during the pandemic, I had second thoughts
Right.
because the industry went kaput, and I
Right.
was still working, but my net income was really just pretty horrendous, and
Yeah.
really any other
Right.
forms of. So that was pretty challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was challenging for a lot of people as well that time. I mean, horrendous times, but hopefully we're kind of getting back on our feet. Fingers crossed, she says. So, what about your plans for for the future? I mean, are you more music orientated career wise, or are you kind of going down the medical route still, or are you balancing both? I mean, where are you at with everything in your own
Well,
life?
I never. I 100% music right now. I'm running one race because um, I believe that if I run one, I've been running 2 races since 2001,
Yeah.
and it's been really challenging.
Yeah.
And I never really liked it. I kind of just wanted to run one, but I was thinking, okay, stable career, or also like my brain is full of all this science, so why
Mm.
not? I'm just trying to do the music thing, and again, I believe that if I do that, if I just focus on this one niche, I will have a better chance at succeeding and
Mm.
building my catalog, which is already pretty large now. It's like almost two albums now. Large for me, not for you, but for me.
Amazing, 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 amazing. And have you not released something? Literally, has it come out today? It's scheduled for today, the 21st of July. Has it come out then? Yeah.
The music video is out today. The private link is out. I think I might have shared it with you, or if not, I'll share it with you after this.
Yep. I don't think I've got it.
I share it with my fans and the people on in my patrons group and on my mailing list. So there's like,
Okay.
they get it, and then a few days later I'll share it with the public.
Yeah.
The Atlantis release, the single, is published July 29th, and it's still in fundraising modes up until like around August 5th or so.
Cool. How
So
would you
people are-
describe it? How would you describe the sound of that? Because I haven't heard it, obviously, yet. How would you describe it?
So it's a blend of three genres. I'm going to say hip hop, classical, and contemporary classical, and electronic. And it starts sort of ominous and kind of intense, a little bit sad, and builds up to a climax, and is cyclical. It goes back to like the initial like introduction back up to that climax, and ends sort of ominous, and is largely reflective of my experience over the last couple of decades,
Right.
and is I believe to be more of a hopeful message than an ominous message, meaning it leads to a climax for a reason, and it doesn't. There's no words. There's no like, here's what you should think. I want people to sort of project their own personal experiences onto the song. But that's sort of the general idea. And again, the intention is to provide some hope to my listeners and some beautiful music without losing the instrument.
That's really lovely, because I always ask guests, what's your message to your fans? What are you trying to communicate? Because I think there's always like your like one tagline. There's your one. Do you know what I mean? Your motto, and it feels like you're trying to instill hope.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my listeners are in that zone where they benefit from.
That's lovely. Yeah. And you're living proof as well. I mean, look at what you've been through and where you're now. So maybe there's some part of you that's trying to give that out there as well and project that idea somehow.
Yeah, I am living proof, but I'm probably more inspired by my own fans and listeners than I am by my own experience, as insane as it was.
Yeah.
I've got listeners that are sending messages about how they have terminal cancer and like just all just difficult conditions that I don't think I could personally handle. So this music is hope for them.
It's lovely. It's very humble of you to say that. But I think, personally speaking, I think, we all go through different things, and what you've been through has been very, very difficult, and you've persevered, and well done for that. And for me, that is inspirational. I think your story is really inspirational to just carry on, because you're believing yourself and you're pushing through, and you can come through the other side, with medical challenges. So well done you. Well done.
Thank you so much. It's I see it this way, like it's less intense because I'm better, because I'm functional. If I rewound back 7 years, it would probably be speaking with you in a different tone.
Well, there's a reason for timing, and there's a reason for everything. I was just thinking also, I was just reflecting on the way when you were describing your latest single, I just brought in the fact that you're a scientist as well. You've got the science there. It feels like you're putting that into your music as well, that way of working a little bit. I don't know if you've ever reflected on it like that before, but it really does feel like that. The bit of the science brain is coming out into the music.
I would say that. Well, definitely the way I speak, but a bit of a science nerd. But yeah, the music is definitely reflective of all my experiences, including the science.
Well done, Asher. That's great. Well, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your story and your music. And I wish you all the very, very best of luck. And I hope you get really, really successful. I'm sure you will. You're a wonderful person. You're very talented, and you've got a lot to give. And who wouldn't love you? You know, who wouldn't? You know, you're amazing. God bless you. And I would like to see you again. You know, come back in 6 months or a year. Let's see how we're doing. You know, maybe one of these days I'll fly over to the States as well. I'm dying to come over to the States. Seriously.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Over. There's plenty of music out here in New York.
I know. I so want to be a part of it. New York, New York. Yeah, that's it.
You can.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Thank
LA
you.
is a nice scene too.
Sorry.
LA, Los Angeles is a great scene. Too.
Yeah. My sister lived there for about 10 years. Yeah, I need to go over there as well. I've just interviewed someone over there. She's just got there actually. So I've been to LA only for like literally a day, which is a mad visit. But anyway, I was more in New York, but I was there some years ago. You know, we were launching the rock band at the time, Rhyme, it was called. That was the rock band we were doing at the time. Yeah, but I was there. I came over in the 90s, and I think the last time I visited was just early, was it 2010 maybe, something like this, can't remember. I think I'm due a visit, definitely due a visit, so be amazing.
Hopefully the airport, JFK Airport, not too far from me, is a little more than I would imagine Heathrow Airport.
Yeah, well, I don't know where my nearest one is Gatwick, actually, I think. Yes, it is, but Heathrow is the west. But yeah. So, any plans to come to UK? What about any plans for the UK?
I keep getting calls. They keep conflicting with like other events.
Right.
I'd like to get over there sometime soon. I've been to like Ireland, Scotland.
Oh, great! Yeah.
I haven't like done any like concerts in the UK yet. Maybe after we speak, something will happen.
Yes, definitely. Hopefully. Yeah, for sure. That'd be amazing. Okay, well, I'm going to love you and leave you with this one. Thank you so much again for coming. All the best.